wasn't bad last year.
Thank you, Myers.
Let's go. Let's try the clock.
You got 4:59, please hold. This is attached to the Department of Defense, so be on hold here for a moment, please. Okay, we got 5 o'clock. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Glassford.
Here.
Mascot.
Here?
Richardson.
Here.
Gillespie.
Yep.
We need a motion to approve the posted agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Motion, do I have a second?
I'll second
it. Go Glassford, go all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Motion passes. Number 3, I need a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the last meeting. Motion, do I have a second?
Second?
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Motion passes. Opening comments. Any opening comments from the general public? Hearing none, we'll move on to number 5, public hearing none. 6, old business none. Number 7, new business. Hi, Todd.
Hey.
Come on in. Okay, so new business, we have review of the concept plan for Bonander's Addition Lot 2, Block 3. First and foremost, I just want to thank everybody for coming. This is kind of a short notice, a little out of scheduled meeting. Wanted to give Mike the opportunity to come and meet with us. So this is Mike Vanworth here to speak with us on his development. So the floor is yours, Mike.
I just want to know, I mean, just kind of, the process and whatnot to replant, my ground back there, I guess, and what I need to do to go forward with
Okay.
it.
Just a little history of it. So Mike owns the old rodeo grounds. So anybody that doesn't know that, he did. How many years ago did you put a shed on that? About 2 years ago?
Last year.
Last year. Okay, so there is an existing shed on that. Mike and I have been back and forth for quite a while on some different options on his property. He now desires or is looking at what avenue he needs to take to start moving forward with subdividing that. So he does have a first stage concept plan here, which is the larger sheet and the smaller with the lots on it. So basically where we start, Mike, and that's why I wanted to give you that
Yeah.
printout, because that's basically what we're gonna follow. It's the same as we've done with all the other developers. Before you leave here, I'm gonna give you what we just approved next door for the 20 acres right here. They went through the same process you'll have to go through. This is all public knowledge. It was at the last planning and zoning meeting. I will give you that, so you're aware of kind of how things should look.
Is that the, after they replanted it then?
This will be the process they went through to get it
To
platted.
get it planted?
Yeah, correct. So starting with the concept plan, moving on to the, through the subdivision ordinance, all the way through the plat to include the engineered development.
Yeah.
So I guess I sent Jesse what you sent. So Jesse's our city engineer. Jesse, Mike, Jesse. And like I've always told you, Mike, that we'll help facilitate anything that you need along the way to get you through the process. So I sent your plan to Jesse because the first stage of the approval process is for you to give us the concept plan, and the concept plan elements are in front of you. As I've also directed that to you a couple different times of what the expectation will be for the concept plan. So Jesse and I spoke the other day. So Jesse, I don't know if you want to at this point chime in and just talk about whether this meets the intent and the elements of the concept plan and something, or what else you'd be looking for that.
Yeah, I mean, just like you had mentioned with the subdivision regulations, I mean, I think it does a pretty good job of kind of summarizing what needs to be, but, you know, the things that we look at from an engineering perspective would be utilities, water, sewer, drainage, making sure we're not altering the flow path or having any negative impacts to adjacent property owners, street access, those kind of things. zoning, or if it was gonna change, any pedestrian connectivity. Kind of just summarize what there are, and then kind of probably would need a little bit more information from an engineer standpoint to approve this as a concept plan. But, yeah, I think those are the main pieces that we're gonna look at that are kind of summarized in this, within the subdivision regulations that you guys have.
So what will happen is the approving authority is myself and Jesse for the concept plan. I do as a courtesy, and that will be this step here is close to meeting the intent of the concept. So I wanted to get the board together, one, for you to have an opportunity to address any issues you may have or concerns to move forward, but also to get it in front of the board so they're aware of what your intentions are, and then to give you a little bit of feedback, which Jesse just did, for any additional items that you may need to meet the concept plan elements. So we don't need to bring that back to another meeting.
Okay.
So once you satisfy those items, then Jesse will receive that copy. I'll receive the copy again. We will approve it, and then that puts you into the next step, which is the preliminary subdivision plan, which I did give you a copy of that, and there's elements that you have to meet. So if you flip into, so if you guys look at, if you guys have your books, so we'll, basically where we'll start is Article 4, which is page 7.
What was that, sir?
Article 4, preliminary subdivision plan. Yeah, that's fine. So do you see that, Mike? Are you on
Yeah.
page 7 there? Okay. So as you start reading through that, and this is something that you'll want to meet with your engineer on, or make sure, and most engineers, every engineer that we work with is aware of what they need to do for the preliminary subdivision plan. So as you work through all of that, then the approval process will be is that we will hold a public hearing, which has to be advertised in the legal paper. So then the approving officials on this, so that after Jesse looks at it, I look at it, and then it comes to this board, we'll hold a public hearing. Anybody from the surrounding area will have an opportunity to come in and voice any concerns they may have with what your intentions are there. And then it goes on to the city council for approval, but only after that you've met these items in here.
Okay. I guess my biggest thing is the street, I
Yep.
guess. Honestly, I don't want to replat it if we can't work something out with the street, I guess. If it's not feasible for me to put the street in and upfront all those costs just to sell a lot.
Yep. So we have, and I don't know if all of the board is familiar with that general area, but part of the issue that we're having as we move forward with working the street is that as Main Street gets extended to the east, it will have to cross the old elevator property. Part of the old elevator building is in the street right away, so that needs to be removed. And then it basically has a clear shot after that, so we do have somewhat of a hiccup there. With some leverage, we can, since that is in the street access, we can leverage to get that removed. Now, my understanding is, Butch, you've talked to the property owner, they understand that we desire to go through there, and they understand they have to move.
I've asked him 2, 3 weeks ago after you and I and Jacob met over there, told him that office area needed to come down just so they could even do some proper engineering, and he agreed to do that.
Yep.
He's waiting for a machine he's gonna rent to knock the whole elevator down.
Yep, so I don't know how quickly they intend to do that. I know at some point, you and I should go meet with that property owner, let him know what our intentions are as a city and how we can address that. I know we have a community access grant that is in motion, possibly. So there is an opportunity to help you out there. Now, that's of course no guarantee because it's a grant, you understand that.
I can just add, my original concern was sewer.
Yep.
Us, by the elevator, the sewer is only 10 foot deep or 8, it's not very deep. So there's no way we can sewer it. Jesse did take some elevations and we just drove over there now, but it can be sewered going north, on lot E, if you go next to lot 3, block 3, where he's got the yellow electric service line, you can sewer going north, and then you go west back behind that old cement building. The sewer would end up in Palmyra Circle. There's a manhole right there, and we do have a right-of-way going to that manhole because we have a force main that pumps up into Main Street from Palmyra. So the sewer part ends up to be not that complicated. I think really the complicated part is, as a city, we help commercial business come in, but a community access grant is not a guarantee. A TIF is a guarantee, but a community access grant is really a better way to go. I'm just talking from my side of the coin. I look at property tax, a $300,000 house nets the city of Crooks about $850, less than $900 a year is what we actually get. On a $300,000 commercial building, if you take it times 15, we get about $4,500 a year. One of the things as we look at Crooks, whether it's now or 2 years from now, 4, we need some mix of commercial property tax to make this town work for the future. We can't survive off of just housing property tax for our annual income for the city. So that's a big help if we can get some of that in. So now we look at that commercial access grant as a way to do it. It ends up back to the property owner, which would be Mike and whoever, if he sells those lots, they would get charged according to their front footage. And then back to the elevator, those guys would have to pay their share of the front footage for the Main Street extension. And I'm just gonna use a round figure of $500,000 if that's what it costs to put a street, curb and gutter, water and sewer. The access grant ends up about 50% of that because it doesn't cover utilities, it doesn't cover engineering. So what we did with the school, as an example, we're gonna meet Wednesday night to decide to actually go for the community access grant for the school. The school sent us a letter that says we will pay for all the costs above and beyond the grant. So that's, for the school, that's a $267,000 that they don't have to pay, but they gotta pay approximately $245,000 because the whole project, say, is about $500. But so it doesn't cost the city any money. It's a grant we apply for, and the school sent us a letter. So it'd be the same way here. If he wants to go on with his development, we could apply for a community access grant. There'd have to be a letter or something, be a city attorney and Scott working something out that utilities, street, whatever share of that access grant that isn't covered would get a portion back to the property owner. So that, you know, and there's nothing saying, like Scott said, you apply for the grant, that doesn't mean it's a done deal. They've got, you know, maybe enough for 10 grants and maybe 12 people are asking or something like that.
So what's the soonest we would know of the result on the grant?
Pardon?
What's the soonest we would know the result on a grant?
Well, we're not even gonna apply for that Main Street grant because it's really not in the budget for this year to apply, so it wouldn't, we're doing some engineering, so we really aren't gonna apply until after the first of the year. And I would say, I don't know how, there's three things they look at on a community access grant. One, is it agricultural based? Does it help provide, like an elevator, or like maybe a seed plant? That's one box. The other box is for an extension of Main Street. And the third box is for access to commercial, to get commercial in. So really, that grant would check two of the three boxes, we only need to check one. I don't think that makes any difference when they look at it, it's really how much money they have. And I don't think really we know until it goes before the board and peer. I mean, one thing I talked to Jesse about is